Welcome everyone to another VCT America's predictions video. Today I'm going to be recapping all 6 teams that made the playoff season and then getting into the playoff bracket and giving you my Pickems for who I think is going to win every game and make it to Tokyo from the Americas League. I've already done this video for Pacific and EMEA. At this point, the Pacific League has not finished yet. We just have DRX and PaperX and then the 2 Chinese teams. I think it's 2. Making it to Tokyo so far. So make sure to stay tuned and go back and watch those videos if you're curious on who you think is going to win. Actually, by the time this comes out, the Pacific one's going to be done, but not EMEA. So go back and watch that. Or if you want to see what my takes were on the Pacific teams that made it, you can go back and watch that. But yeah, if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Yeah, let's get right into it with our number 6 team, Evil Geniuses. So yeah, as I said, we're going to start here with EG, where they had a pretty abysmal start to their season. They had a fairly promising lock-in, beating Team Heretics pretty pretty handily. And then against Talon, they kind of choked both maps against that, or in that game. So kind of sucks, but there is a lot of inexperience from this team, and that was kind of to be expected at LAN. And then once they got to the Americas League, they lose 2-0 to Cloud9, who were expected to be the worst team in Americas by far. Which was kind of a disappointment. They started running the Sova on Fracture and that really wacky Pearl comp with the Gecko. So after that, their expectations were very low. And then they beat 100 Thieves, or not they beat 100 Thieves, it's like fucking 1 a.m. When I'm recording this. But they lose to 100 Thieves in pretty convincing fashion. This is the first game they played Demon 1 in. And this wasn't very close. I mean, I think this kind of plummeted their expectations down into that like last place territory. And then they played against Crew, the 2 bottom teams. This game actually wasn't as bad as you'd expect with the bottom 2 teams in the league coming into it. Pearl, EG barely managed to squeak that out, barely lost a cent. And then on Fracture, they were able to close it out with that Sova comp. But I don't think Crew played it particularly well, especially a bad day from Kesnet too. Really didn't help them. And then they play Furia really close, which was very promising. They almost beat them on Ascent. They probably should have closed this out 2-0. Sadly, they did not. And then they kind of just lose it on Haven. I mean, they get 3 rounds in the second half. Kind of flashbacks to Lock-In and how they lost that map to Talon. And then they come really close. I guess really close is different. They have an insane anti-strat against Loud on Split. And then Haven. This is one of the most insane maps of Valorant I've ever watched. I think it was round 19. I think around 17, 18, and 19 were all calm clutches. Which was kind of just insane. Or I think it was just 18 and 19. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But they weren't able to close out Haven. And then they get 13-0'd, the first International League 13-0 from this year, and I mean, I guess ever, since it's the first year of the international leagues. So that was fairly fun. I turned that game off at like 10-0. I just stopped watching. I'm like, this game's over. There's no point in me watching this. And then they beat Leviathan. This was a fairly decent upset, I think. Yeah, I mean, this was a big upset. They managed to take the win on Split, which wasn't too much of a surprise considering how well they played the week before. And Leviathan, I don't think they've been particularly great at Split in the past. I don't remember them playing it at Copenhagen, and then obviously it wasn't in the pool of champions. And then Pearl, what happened this map? I mean, I guess they just kind of got beat on Leviathan's best map, and then they managed to have a comeback. No, wait, this wasn't a comeback. What am I talking about? Again, very late for me here. So, but they managed to like hold on through the end of Ascent. Won a bunch of rounds in the first half, 9-3 half, and then looked like a curse. Was not. And then they lose fairly convincingly to NRG, who look like the best team in the Americas right now, just by their current form. And it looked like they weren't going to make playoffs until 100 Thieves lost to MIBR in the final game of the regular season and which pushed them into playoffs. And Com had an amazing reaction that I'm going to put here right now.
Talk to him. Play last. Play last. Don't let him know you're here. Perfect.
Playing perfect.
Your turn. Your turn. Talk to him.
Wait, they don't know. They don't know.
Shoot the fucking guy. It's Tom. Yes. Let's go. We're going. Let's go.
And then the number 5 seed, we have Furia, who at the beginning of the split, they beat Crew, pretty convincing game. Kind of just mopped them up, played a weird chamber comp on split, and then they upset Leviathan with Khalil. I mean, in this game, he looked like the best player in the world. He was insane. DG popped off as well. Only map they lost was Pearl. They kind of rolled him on Icebox, and then made a big comeback on Ascent with Leviathan only winning one attacking round against them, mainly held by Khalil. And then at that point, a lot of people, not including myself, thought they looked like the best team in the world. Or not in the world, in Americas. Just because Loud was trying some stuff, losing some, like, maps, I guess, not rounds. But they go up against Loud, people predicted them to win, power ranked them 1. And now they just got rolled. I mean, there's no other way around it. They both played like shit in this game, and kind of that game after that pretty much tanked their season. They won 1 game against playoff teams. I know that was against EG of all teams, and they barely scraped that game out. And then Cloud9, they got rolled in this game as well, I'm pretty sure. 13-8, 13-9. Not even close. They roll MIBR here. Oh, wow, that was actually closer than I thought it was. Oh, yeah, they had the huge comeback in this map. Forgot about that. But then they take a map off NRG. But this was only a close game because the individuals for Furia, especially DG, were popping the fuck off, and NRGs were not. So if you can't beat a team with your individuals playing the best and their individuals playing pretty bad, that's not a good sign. Then they fall 1-2 to 100 Thieves in a very close game. They win Pearl, which is 100 Thieves permaban. It shouldn't have even been this close. They got rolled on Fracture, and then Haven was a very, very solid game where they their Harbor Viper stuff just got beat by the Gecko, which was, in my opinion, a fairly good counter. Obviously, 100 Thieves were running this comp as their main comp, not really as a counter, but it was still very solid. And then their last game against Sentinels, one of the most entertaining games of the split. Sentinels played a really, really slow attack half against them on split. Kind of got rolled on that side, and then they just could not make the comeback and attack with the double duelist. And then on Haven, they were able to just run through Sentinels. Sentinels did not look practiced on this map very much. And then 19-17 on Bind. This made it so Fury had a chance of not making playoffs, but then EG lost, so they were safe. I thought overall in this game, QCK played really bad, despite even having the top frag in this game. I mean, the stats don't show it here, but he was going for, what was the Brazilian word? The Bagrador. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it means catfish, and it's just like the worst player of the week award. It looked like he was going for that with some of like the baiting that he was doing. But overall, Furia, I thought were one of the most overrated teams of the split, but are still a fairly solid team. Kind of similar to Foot and EMEA if you watch that video. They have some upset potential. And then in the number 4 seed, we have Leviathan, who, again, similar to Furia, started off the split really hot, and a 2-0 against NRG, one of the top teams coming into the split, kind of rolling them on Lotus, which was a map that did not look good for NRG, to be fair. I don't think they should have won this Pearl map. I think this was NRG's map to lose, and they just kind of choked it at the end here. I don't know. I don't really know what happened. They just kind of lost the rounds. They get upset by Furia. Khalil, again, had an insane game, and I don't really blame Leviathan too much for this. but they did choke that second half of Ascent, and that was kind of the start of where everything started to fall apart. Then Sentinels, I mean, this game should have been a 2-0 for Sen, if I'm being honest. They were able to take Ascent with a huge second clutch at the end. But this is 14-12. I thought Leviathan should have lost this. They only won one of the final or 6 rounds. It was 5 rounds, 4 Sentinels. But then they were able to close out in overtime, and then they just rolled them on Pearl, which is one of Leviathan's best maps. They roll MIBR, not too much to say there. They lose to 100 Thieves on a huge Bane clutch at the final round. I thought the series should have been Leviathan's the second they won Icebox. They should have won Haven, but 100 Thieves were able to sneak it out. The huge, like, I don't remember where the Derek ult thing was, but I think it was around 24, somewhere in there. It was a huge round to win them that map. And then obviously the Bang clutch here, but this was the map that looked the worst for 100 Thieves, and they were able to pull it out against Leviathan, who were perceived to not be bad at this map, and yet they were. So, or they're not bad at it, but they got beat by a team that's bad on it, which is not a good look for them. And then they lose to EG in very similar fashion, except, I mean, especially to like how they lost against Furia. They just couldn't get it done on the attack side. Only 3 rounds. Not really a ton to say there. It's just a mix of the Furia and 100 Thieves series, pretty much. Against Crew, they win the LATAM battle pretty convincingly. Not too much to say there. And then their last 2 weeks against the 2 best teams in the league looked very grim for them to make playoffs. But they were able to sneak in, but they got rolled in both games. 13-7, 13-5, and then I think this was even more of a blowout, 13-7, 13-4. So unfortunate for Leviathan. Doesn't look like they're going to make Tokyo. But I mean, if they update a lot of their protocols, run some weird stuff, anything could happen. And then getting to our top 3 teams here, we have NRG, who right now, with the way they're playing, they look like the best team in Americas. Obviously, they didn't start out too hot, losing 2-0 to Leviathan. Kind of talked about that. Got rolled on Lotus. Not too much to say there. They were able to swiftly deal with Sentinels. Not too much of a worry there. And then it's MIBR. This was a massive upset. They were able to take Icebox, which was NRG's best map throughout the season here, until it got removed, obviously. And then NRG barely take Pearl, and then barely lose Split. I think they probably should have won one of these 2 maps, but you could argue the same thing for Furia. Probably should have won this map. They never had a match point, to be fair. It was all NRG, and they just were able to finally close one out. Same deal with Split, but overall, I didn't take too much from that game personally. I didn't rate MIBR too much higher or NRG too much lower. Same thing with this Cloud9 game. Actually, I did boost Cloud9 a lot after this game. I mean, this was the like official breakout game for Cloud9, as I'll talk about in a little bit. But NRG clean up Haven. It looked like they should have 2-0'd the series by the map pool, but they also took Lotus, or C9 took Lotus, and then kind of just mopped them up on Ascent. An insane defense half, and then just were able to close it out on attack. And then NRG finished the season winning 5 straight, returning back to their normal roles against Crew with Artis on Duelist. I think it was he was. But that was kind of their kind of fixing everything game. They had a massive read on 100 Thieves, especially on Fracture. I mean, and on Bind, to be fair. They only won some rounds because of some individual stuff. Same deal with Furia, except it was a map instead of rounds. I mean, I guess rounds are part of a map, but you get the point. And then they anti-strat loud as well. Just kind of perfectly playing against Ospas kind of thing. And we're able to win that. I don't know how much you can take away from Loud's point of view on that, as I'll talk about a little bit more later with that team. But still, no matter what, an impressive win, beating the best team from Brazil. And then EG, they were able to mop them up pretty much here. Not too difficult. Pretty easy game for them. And yeah, they look back to that like optic form. Maybe not that good, but somewhere close to it. And then our number 2 seed, Cloud9, who picked up Jake and Rooney at the beginning of the season in place of Vanity and Ye, uh, due to like financial issues with the org. Which, looking into the season, I had them ranked eighth. A lot of people had them ranked ninth or last. And yeah, they just completely turned it around. Jake and Rooney held their own, which is why I placed them eighth. I don't feel comfortable placing them any higher than that. Um, but yeah, I just think out of like every team in the league or any league, any VCT league, they were the biggest surprise. I mean, Jake and Rooney held their own really well, even past that. They both had some really strong games. Rooney IGLing very well, especially with help from the other three veteran players with Leaf, Zeppa, and Zelsis. Almost forgot his name. They start out with a 2-0 over EG that I already talked about. I mean, it was a pretty easy game. I guess they were down 9-3 on the Pearl half, and they were able to bring it back. But that was with the EG no duelist attack side, which just did not work for them. And then they go against Loud, and they kind of roll them on split. To be honest, I mean, this game was not as close as the scoreline uh, entails. That's the word. Then they lose Ascent and they lose Pearl. Not really too close, but those are two of Loud's better maps. And I think if they had a rematch, this game would be a lot closer. And then they 2-0 100 Thieves. Kind of rolled them on Lotus. And then Ascent was a very, very entertaining map. Leaf went crazy. Zeppa went crazy. Not too much to talk about there. I guess on the 100 Thieves side, Asuna went crazy. Derek had a pretty decent game. But other than that, not too much to speak of there. It was a good game. They 2-1 NRG. I already talked about that. Pretty good game. They rolled Furia. I mean, actually, amazing game from Cloud9 against NRG. I'm not gonna like kind of skip past that too much. They played very, very well in that game. That was again their official breakout game. Kind of playing a bit closer on Haven than I thought they would, to be honest. And then on Pearl, they kind of just rolled him, winning a bunch of retakes on the second half of Pearl. And then Ascent, they had an insane defense side, just like they did against 100 Thieves. Except Leaf didn't go as crazy. He did hit one really cool clip, getting like 3 guys in Cat with his knives that I might put at the end of this if I remember to, but I really don't care that much. And then Furia, they roll, as I talked about earlier, they roll Sentinels. I think, yeah, this game was not close. I thought they were going to get 13 0 here, personally, but they managed to. Sentinels managed to get a couple rounds. They roll MBR, they roll Leviathan, and then this crew game was kind of interesting. 15-13, they were down 12-6 and were able to bring it all the way back. It was kind of funny. They get rolled on Ascent, to be fair, running this weird comp, trying to throw people off, I think. Maybe they thought it was Haven. I don't know. And then Split. They managed to close it out, though. And yeah, with that was Cloud9 season, and onto the final team, Loud. So yeah, I'm not gonna put that clip in. I don't care enough to do that. But Loud, uh, I mean, I could just go over every game in detail, but generally sorry, that was my chair. Generally the theme for every game, besides the Furia game, and I guess the NRG game, for two different reasons, was they made it close. I guess the other team made it close, you could say. Loud was trying some stuff. Uh, and yeah, they didn't really have to try too hard to go 8-1. I think they're saving a lot of new cool stuff. Maybe it might not necessarily be comps, but certain strats, all that kind of stuff, which kind of led them towards the end of the year, or kind of end of the split, getting anti-stratted pretty hard, and were able to like just kind of roll through every team except for NRG. And then Furia, they looked like they were trying in this game, to be fair. Uh, Split was relatively close, but they went back to their old like double duelist comp when they were running the Gecko the week before. Maybe that was just a 1 week thing. or I guess 2 week thing. Yeah, they ran it both games, and then they just roll them on Icebox, which was gonna get removed anyway. So I could see why they want to use stuff on that map, but they kind of just flex their muscles that game. And then pretty much every other match except for 100 Thieves and Leviathan, they lost a map, and then made the last map close. Some of them they didn't. Obviously, the EG game they didn't. I don't think the Sentinels game was very close. So overall, fairly dominant season from Loud, and I expect them to get even better when it comes to the playoffs. And yeah, so finally onto the Pickems, where we'll start with Leviathan versus Furia. Two teams that really fell off towards the end of the year. I think either of these teams would lose to either of these teams in the first round. But just because I think they have upset potential, and I don't really trust Leviathan to do anything too new and weird that would be good, I'm going to take Furia to beat them and move on against Loud. And then NRG, EG, rematch of week 9, I think it was. Yeah, week 9. I'm going to take NRG again. I just think they should be able to win that. And then Loud, Furia, a rematch from early in the season. I'm going to take Loud. Same thing with, I mean, just same reasons that they won before. I just think they know Furia well enough. They'll be able to beat them just because, I mean, Furia have good individuals. Loud have even better ones. I think that's a pretty fair way of explaining that. Cloud9, NRG. Now, this game is a tough one for me. C9, throughout the whole split, if you take that and combine it, have looked like the best team. Just by sheer form, I think there is some cause for concern, though. There's no way. I missed a week. I'm so annoyed about that. I'm like, I don't know why I'm talking about my points. Uh, but there is some potential for choking here. Two new players, and the rest of the team isn't exactly the most experienced in high pressure scenarios. I guess Celsius has gone to a LAN and played pretty well there. Um, Zeppa, I guess the whole team has gone to a LAN, but in those like LAN qualification games outside of the LCQ game, some of these players have not been the best, and I'm not sure if I fully trust Jake and Rooney to be able to pull it out. So I'm gonna take the experience in this game. Over the last like 4 weeks, NRG did look like the best team. Uh, so I'm gonna take them here. That also adds into it, but the experience diff and like the hot team diff. So both these teams are already in uh, for Tokyo, but I'm gonna take Loud here. I think they want that 1 seed going into Tokyo to get the bye. And then Cloud9, Leviathan. Even if there's some chokiness here, I think there's going to be some from Leviathan too. So I'm going to take Cloud9, who've just looked like the better team, but I could see this going either way, personally. And then Furia, EG. EG, they kind of got rolled last week against NRG. But before that, they were looking like a very solid team. I power ranked them 5th going into the final week. And I'm going to take them over Furia. I'm just going to predict Furia doesn't have a good day. That's all it really is. I mean, they'll lose to Loud and then have a drop off again after that, just like they did before. And then Cloud9 versus EG. If this was 100 Thieves, I would have predicted 100 Thieves here. But actually, seeding would be the exact same. So, it doesn't really matter. I'm just kind of annoyed that 100 Thieves didn't make playoffs. They don't deserve it. They should have won that game against MIBR, but they did not. And then Cloud9. So for the actual matchup here, Cloud9, EG, both teams have some chokiness. I think Cloud9 at this point in this bracket would qualification game for Tokyo. EG have Ethan, who has qualified for LAN before. I'm trying to remember who else is on that roster. No other experience that's noteworthy. And Cloud9 do. I'm going to take Cloud9 here to scoot into Tokyo, just barely. I think this game will be very scrappy and close, NA versus NA, to qualify for Tokyo. And Cloud9 will put some funny tweet out. And then NRG Cloud9. I don't really care too much about this because it's a seeding game. And I don't know how much these teams are going to be trying. But I'll pick NRG. And then we get El Clasico a third time. And do I want to pick NRG or do I want to pick Loud? I think I'm going to go Loud. I said it before. They want that 1 seed. I think they'll win the NRG revenge match narrative from last year. And so yeah, with that, that's going to be my Pickems. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I recorded this all at like 1:30 in the morning. So it'd be very much appreciated for you to like support the channel, all that kind of stuff. I'm making a bunch of content leading up to Tokyo. This will be the last video I put out before I start making all that stuff. I'll probably wait until the playoffs are done or almost done to do that. But yeah, with that, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.